Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Olivia. I am an American who packed up her entire life, left the land of eagles screeching freedom, and moved across the pond to the United Kingdom. Now, usually, when Americans talk about moving to the UK, we focus on the stuff that drives us crazy. We talk about the rain, we talk about the small washing machines that live in the kitchen for some reason, and we talk about how confused we get when someone asks, "You're right," as a greeting. But today we are flipping the script. We are keeping it positive. I have lived here long enough now that the honeymoon phase is officially over, and yet I find myself falling deeper in love with this quirky, ancient, tea-obsessed island every single day. I've made a list, a big list. We are going to go through the 15 specific British things that I have absolutely fallen in love with, things that frankly the US needs to adopt immediately. And because I want to give you the real tea, we are going to dig a little deeper than just, oh, the accents are cute. We're talking history, psychology, and the laws that make this place tick. Grab a cuppa, get comfortable, and let's dive into number one. 1. The right to roam and walking culture. Number one on my list has completely changed my physical and mental health, and that is the British walking culture and the legal concept of the right to roam. In the US, if you walk onto a farmer's field or you wander into a patch of woods that isn't a state park, you are terrified. You're looking for no trespassing signs, you're worried about guard dogs, or in some states, you're legitimately worried about someone pulling a gun on you. Private property is king in America, but here there is this incredible piece of legislation called the Countryside and Rights of Way Act of 2000. Essentially, it gives the public the legal right to walk on access land, mountains, moors, heaths, downs, without fear of being sued for trespass. There are footpaths here that are hundreds of years old, cutting right through private estates and golf courses, and the landowners block them. Historically, these paths were the commute before cars, before trains. This was how serfs and labourers got from village to market, and the British fought to keep them open. There was actually a famous mass trespass of Kinder Scout in 1932, where hikers deliberately trespassed to demand access to the countryside. Because of them, I can spend my Sunday walking through breathtaking sheep pastures, climbing over stiles, and just existing in nature. It changes your brain chemistry. In the US, we drive to the gym to walk on a treadmill. Here, walking is a mode of transport and a leisure activity. I honestly believe this is why I see so many sprightly 80-year-olds hiking up hills here. It's a freedom of movement we just don't have back home. 2. The 230-volt electric kettle. Okay, stop laughing. I know, Olivia, it's a kettle. No, you don't understand. This is a technological marvel that Americans are deprived of because of our infrastructure. In the US, our standard voltage is 120 volts. In the UK, it's 230 volts. This sounds like boring science, but here is the practical reality. An electric kettle in the UK boils water in literally half the time it takes in the US. It is violent, it is fast, and it is efficient. When I first moved here, I thought the obsession with tea was a stereotype. It is not. It is the social glue of the nation. But the kettle represents something more than just hot water. It represents the reset button. In British culture, if there is a crisis, you put the kettle on. If you receive bad news, put the kettle on. If you win the lottery, put the kettle on. There's actually a phenomenon here called TV pickup. The national grid, the electricity people literally have to employ people to watch television. Why? Because the second a popular soap opera like ends, or during halftime of a massive England football match, millions of people simultaneously get up and turn on their kettles. It causes a massive surge in electricity demand that can blow the grid if they aren't ready for it. That is how dedicated this nation is to a hot drink. I have adopted this ritual, and honestly, taking 5 minutes to brew a tea is the best mindfulness practice I've ever had. 3. The National Health Service, NHS. We have to talk about the big one, the NHS. Now listen, I know it's a national sport here to complain about the NHS. I hear my British friends complaining about wait times or trying to get a GP appointment at 8 a.m, and those are valid criticisms, but as an American, the NHS makes me want to cry tears of joy. Let me give you some context. In the US, medical bankruptcy is the number one cause of bankruptcy. People literally lose their homes because they got cancer. I have friends back home who Uber to the hospital because an ambulance costs $2,000. Here, the NHS was founded in 1948 by Aneurin Bevan with three core principles: that it meet the needs of everyone, that it be free at the point of delivery, and that it be based on clinical need, not ability to pay. I remember the first time I went to a doctor here. I walked up to the reception desk, trembling, reaching for my wallet, ready to hand over a credit card for a copay. The receptionist just looked at me and said, "Take a seat, love." I walked out paying zero. Nothing. Zilch. It changes how you live your life. The background anxiety that exists in every American's brain. What if I get sick? What if I lose my job and my insurance? That anxiety just evaporates here. You know that if the worst happens, you will be taken care of. It treats healthcare as a human right, not a luxury product. And that to me is the most civilized thing about this country. 4. The lack of artificial dyes in food. Let's talk about groceries. When I first walked into a Tesco or a Sainsbury's, I noticed something weird. The Fanta was yellow. In the US, Fanta is neon orange. It glows in the dark. It looks like radioactive sludge. Here it's yellow because it actually contains orange juice, and get this, no artificial dyes. The UK and the EU have much stricter regulations on food additives than the FDA in America. There are certain dyes like red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6 that are linked to hyperactivity in children. In the UK, if you use them, you have to put a warning label on the package. So most companies just switch to natural colorings like beetroot or carrot. It's not just the dyes, it's the sugar. The UK introduced a sugar tax on soft drinks a few years ago. It forced companies to reformulate their recipes to lower the sugar content. As a result, the food here just tastes real. When you buy strawberry yogurt, it tastes like strawberries, not like strawberry flavor 5. I've lost weight since moving here without really trying, simply because the baseline quality of processed food is higher. I can eat a bag of chips, without reading a chemistry textbook on the back of the packet. 5. The British pub. It is not a bar. One of the biggest misconceptions Americans have is that a pub is just a British word for a bar. It is not. They are completely different species. A bar in America is where you go to get drunk, maybe pick someone up, and shout over loud music. A pub, short for public house, is essentially a communal living room. Historically, the Ale House Act of 1552 was one of the first laws passed to regulate these places, but they go back way further. Pubs are community centres. You walk in and you see a dog sleeping by the fireplace. You see a granddad reading a newspaper in the corner. You see a family having Sunday lunch. You see a group of colleagues complaining about their boss. There is no pressure to be cool in a pub. In an American bar, I feel like I need to have my hair done and be wearing the right outfit. In a British pub, I can walk in wearing a raincoat and muddy boots, order a pint of ale, and sit there for 4 hours reading a book, and nobody will bother me. I also love the architecture of them. Some of these pubs are older than the United States. I drank in a pub recently that was rebuilt after the Great Fire of London in 1666. 1666. You are drinking a pint inside of history. It creates this cozy, hickory feeling that you just can't manufacture. 6. The queue. If you cut in line in America, someone might yell at you. If you cut in a queue in Britain, nobody will say a word, but the collective silent rage will be enough to melt your skin off. The British queue is a sacred institution. Psychologists actually study this. It's about fairness. It's a social contract that says we are all in this together and nobody is more important than anyone else. During World War II, rationing normalized queuing for everything. It became a symbol of British stoicism and order. Today you see it everywhere. If a bus pulls up, people don't mob the doors. They form a line. If a new checkout opens at the grocery store, people don't sprint to it. They look at the person ahead of them and gesture, "After you." As an American, I am used to a survival of the fittest mentality when it comes to service. You have to fight to get the bartender's attention. Here, the order creates a sense of calm. I know that if I wait my turn, I will be served. It lowers my blood pressure. I have become a queue enforcer. I caught myself tutting at a tourist the other day who tried to skip the line for the bus. I have assimilated. 7. Work-life balance and annual leave. This one makes me legitimately angry at my home country. We need to talk about vacation time, or as they call it here, annual leave. In the US, there is zero federal law requiring employers to give you paid vacation. Zero. Most Americans are lucky to get 10 days, and even then, we feel guilty taking them. We check our emails on the beach in the UK. The law, specifically the Working Time Regulations, 1998, mandates that almost all workers are entitled to 5.6 weeks of paid holiday a year. That is 28 days, and the culture supports it. When my British colleagues go on holiday, they disappear. Their out-of-office reply says, "I am in Spain. I will not read your email. If it is an emergency, call 999. There isn't that toxic hustle culture here that equates exhaustion with moral superiority. People work to live, they don't live to work, they take gap years, they take month-long sabbaticals. It made me realize how burned out I was in the States. Having almost a month of guaranteed time off allows you to actually be a human being with hobbies and interests outside of your job. 8. The absence of guns and general safety. I'm going to get serious for a second. The number one thing I love, the thing that helps me sleep at night, is the lack of guns. I grew up doing active shooter drills in school. I walked into movie theaters checking for the exits. That low-level hum of paranoia is the soundtrack to American life. Here, the police generally don't even carry guns. This goes back to the Peelian Principles of 1829, set out by Robert Peel when he founded the police force. The idea is policing by consent. The police are citizens in uniform, not an occupying military force. The UK has some of the strictest gun control laws in the world, especially after the Dunblane tragedy in 1996. Because of that, gun crime is incredibly rare. I walk home from the tube station at night with headphones on. I sit in a crowded pub without scanning the room. The feeling of safety is palpable. It feels like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders that I didn't even know I was carrying. It's freedom. Real freedom is the freedom from fear. 9. Public transport and connectivity. In America, unless you live in NYC or maybe Chicago, you are a prisoner to your car. If you can't drive, you can't participate in society. Here, the connectivity is mind-blowing. I live in a world where I don't own a car and I don't need one. The London Underground, the Tube, is the oldest underground railway in the world, opening in 1863. It moves 5 million people a day, but it's not just London. The train network connects the entire country. I can wake up on a Saturday, walk to the station, and be in a different city, or the coast or the countryside in an hour. It's definitely not perfect. Britons love to complain about train delays and the price of tickets, but compared to the US, it's a miracle. It makes society more equitable. You don't need a $30,000 vehicle and insurance just to get a job, and sitting on a train, watching the green fields roll by, listening to a podcast, it beats sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic on an LA freeway any day of the week. 10. British humour and banter. British humour is a defence mechanism, a love language, and an art form, all rolled into one. It took me a solid 6 months to understand it. American humour is often about being the loudest, or the most successful, or punching down. British humour is almost entirely self-deprecation. It's about taking the mickey out of yourself before anyone else can. There is this concept called the tall poppy syndrome. In the UK, if you act too arrogant or too successful, people will cut you down to size with humour. It keeps everyone humble. And then there is banter. Banter is the sport of affectionately insulting your friends. If a British person insults you to your face, it usually means they like you. If they are impeccably polite to you, they probably hate your guts. I love the dry, deadpan delivery. You can be watching a panel show like All 8 out of 10 Cats, and the wit is so fast, so sharp. It challenges you intellectually. You have to be paying attention. It's not spoon-fed to you like a sitcom with a laugh track. 11. Historical layers and preservation. I am obsessed with the fact that you can see time in the architecture here. In the US, we tear things down the second they get old. Here, they just build on top of it. You can walk through a city like York or Bath or London and see Roman walls next to a medieval church, next to a Victorian pub, next to a modern glass skyscraper like the Shard. I absolutely love the blue plaque scheme. It started in 1866. You'll be walking down a residential street and see a blue circle on a house that says Jimi Hendrix lived here or Virginia Woolf lived here. It integrates history into the daily fabric of life, and it's protected. They have listed building status. Grade I or Grade 2 listed means you can't just knock it down or change the windows to vinyl. It preserves the character of the towns. Living here feels like you are a custodian of the past, not just a consumer of the present. 12. The sorry reflex. If I bump into someone in the street in New York, I might get yelled at. In London, if I bump into someone, we'll apologize too. The British sorry is fascinating. A social anthropologist named Kate Fox wrote a book called The English, and she talks about the sorry reflex. It's not an admission of guilt, it's a tool. It means I acknowledge your presence, or I am trying to get past you, or I didn't hear what you said. I find it so endearing. It greases the wheels of social interaction. It de-escalates conflict before it even starts. I found myself apologizing to a chair I bumped into the other day. That is when I knew I was too far gone. But honestly, I prefer a society that defaults to politeness rather than aggression. No tipping culture. Well, mostly. Okay, this is a financial relief. The US tipping culture has gotten out of control. We are tipping 25% for someone to hand us a muffin. In the UK, tipping is optional. Servers are paid a minimum wage, the national living wage. They don't rely on your charity to pay their rent. If you go to a restaurant, you might leave 10 to 12% if the service was good, or it might be added automatically as a service charge. But in a pub, you never tip for drinks. You just tap your card and walk away. You don't have to do mental math after 3 glasses of wine. It makes going out so much more relaxing. The price on the menu is the price you pay because taxes are included too. It feels honest. It feels like the business is taking responsibility for its staff, not passing that burden onto the customer. 14. The British Sunday roast ritual. We talked about the pub, but we need to talk specifically about the Sunday roast. This isn't just a meal, it is a religion. The tradition dates back to the Industrial Revolution. Families would put a cut of meat into the oven before going to church, and it would be ready when they got back. Today, it is the anchor of the week. Roast beef, roast chicken or lamb, roast potatoes, which must be crispy on the outside and fluffy on the inside. It's the law. Vegetables, gravy, and the crown jewel, the Yorkshire pudding. For my Americans, a Yorkshire pudding is not a dessert. It's like a savory popover made from batter, originally designed to fill you up because meat was expensive. I love that Sunday is protected for this. You go for a long walk, you go to the pub or your mum's house, and you eat until you are in a food coma. It forces you to slow down. It connects you with friends. It is comfort food for the soul. 15. British television and the license fee. Finally, number 15. British TV. Specifically, the model of it. In the UK, you pay a TV license fee, which funds the BBC. Because the BBC is publicly funded, it doesn't have advertisements. Imagine watching the news without being sold a pharmaceutical drug every 8 minutes. Imagine watching a documentary that isn't sensationalized just to keep you from changing the channel. The quality of TV here is insane. Earth, oh who, because they aren't purely driven by ad revenue, they take risks. They make shows that are only 6 episodes long, because that's all the story needed. In the US, if a show is a hit, we drag it out for 22 seasons until it's terrible. Here, they tell the story, and they get out. It respects the audience's intelligence. And having a news source that is legally mandated to be impartial, though people argue about that, I know, feels a lot healthier than the polarized cable news shoutfests we have back home. Conclusion. So there you have it. 15 things that this American expat has fallen head over heels for. Don't get me wrong, I still miss Mexican food. I miss wide parking spaces. I miss air conditioning. Oh my God, do I miss air conditioning? But the UK offers a depth of life, a sense of history, and a community spirit that I think is truly special. It's a place where people look out for each other, where history is cherished, and where a cup of tea really can solve 90% of your problems. I want to hear from you guys in the comments. If you are American, which of these sounds the best to you? And if you are British, did I get it right? Or am I just a starry-eyed Yank looking at your country through rose-tinted glasses? Let me know. If you like this video, please smash that like button or gently press it. We are being polite and British now. And subscribe for more stories from my life across the pond. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!